Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Awesome. Thanks, Francis, for the music to get the vibe started for this morning. Welcome to the Spokane Coalition of Colors Candidate Forum, the very first one of this season. My name is Sarah Dixit, and I'm the co-chair alongside Ryan Louie for the Spokane chapter of the Asian Pacific Islander Coalition. I'm going to be your host and moderator for today, and we are so happy that you can join us even in this virtual space. And before we get started, we want to acknowledge that every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. So we begin this morning acknowledging that we are on the ancestral lands of the Spokane tribe and a multitude of tribes who are connected through shared history and of trade, celebration, and resources. We make this acknowledgement to pay respects to their elders, past and present, whose knowledge remains on the land. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that brings us together today. And please join us in continuing to learn about such truths and actions that we can take towards restorative justice. So the Spokane Coalition of Color consists of the Asian and Pacific Islander Coalition, also known as APIC, the Spokane branch of the NAACP, and the Hispanic Business Professionals Association, which is also known as HBPA, and Muslims for Community Action and Support, also known as MCAS. Our mission statement is SCOC builds stronger, healthier, more equitable communities by valuing all ethnicities through the spirit of friendship. Before we get any further, the lovely Francis will do a quick tutorial on Zoom for our audience.
Hello everyone, my name is Francis Martel of APIC Spokane. I will be managing the behind the scenes of the candidate forum with the other SCOC members, Stacey Wells, Ryan Louie, and Rowena Pineda. Quick Zoom 101, as a virtual attendee in this candidate forum, at the bottom of your screen, you will see 3 buttons. So there's the chat, Q&A, and live transcript. Currently, the chat button has been disabled for all attendees. If you have any webinar or technology concerns or questions for the candidates, please use the Q&A button. For accessibility, please click on the live transcript button where you will find options to view the full transcript or enable the live captions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Francis. So this morning, we want to welcome Ms. Nagmana Shirazi, Mr. Jonathan Bingle, and Mr. Mike Lish for joining us today. We want to inform you all that we reached out to all of the candidates running for the office of City Council in District 1, 2, and 3. Councilmember Betsy Wilkerson from District 2 and District 3 candidate Zach Sapone send their regrets as they are out of town. So candidates will be answering questions posed by me. We want to honor your and the candidate's time by finishing at 11 as scheduled. We will make every effort to get to questions asked by the audience as well. We hope that once we are finished, you will feel that you have a better understanding of where each of the candidate lies in different issues that are important to you and important to communities of color. So for the outline and the format for the ground rules of today, each candidate has 2 minutes to introduce themselves, share the office they're running for, and make their opening statements. Following the opening statements, each candidate will be asked the same 4 questions, and each one will have a minute to answer each. And there might be time for follow-up questions as well to those. We will take questions from the audience. Audience members should pose their question on the Q&A function, which can be found at the bottom of your screen. Audience members can choose to direct their questions to a specific candidate. And then after the last question, each candidate will have a 2-minute closing statement. Nicole Rosenkrantz is our awesome timekeeper. She is waving right now. She will raise a card giving you a 30-second warning, then actually a whistle maybe to stop you when your time is up. We encourage civic engagement and dialogue between people with different points of view. Please be respectful of one another. Audience members who exhibit disrespectful behavior will be removed from this space. So before we pose our questions to candidates, we want to quickly go over what the City Council does. So in Spokane, like most cities in Washington State, we have an elected mayor and an elected city council. The City Council is a legislative branch of our city's government and has policymaking powers. So for example, our City Council approves water, sewer, and garbage rates, which impacts our daily lives. There are 7 members of the City Council, 1 council president, and 6 council members. So for the council district map, we have 3 council districts. District 1 is Northeast Spokane, District 2 is the South Hill, and District 3 is Northwest Spokane. The council president represents the whole city, and the council members are elected to 4-year terms. So we want to introduce the candidates that we have today. So District 1, we have Nagmana Shirazi and Jonathan Bingle. And then for District 3, we have Mike Lish. So each candidate has 2 minutes to introduce themselves and provide an opening statement. And for the opening statement, we would like the candidates to include how have you promoted equity, inclusion, and cultural humility in your life. So let's start with Ms. Shirazi, followed by Mr. Bingle, then Mr. Lish. Nagmana, you can take it.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm here. And my view is such that I will need to hear the whistle when the time goes off because I can't see everybody. I'm going to adjust it in a second. But just FYI, Nicole, you're going to have to blow your whistle for me when my time's up if I go over. So my name is Nagmana Shirazi. I am an immigrant Muslim woman from South Asia. I was born and raised in Karachi, Pakistan, and chose to make Spokane my home about 10 years ago. And once I moved here, I realized pretty fast that there are very few people here like me, and went out looking for a lot of folks, and am very lucky to have found people who think like me and may not necessarily look exactly like me, but are definitely, sorry, something happened. Everybody disappeared. Are you all there?
Yes, we're still here.
Thank you. I can hear you now. I don't know, something's happened to my computer. Oh, sorry. Okay. So basically, yes, moving to Spokane has been the portion where it being 88% white, it was difficult originally to find like-minded people or people who look like me and find my own community. But we managed it through becoming a member of the NAACP, getting to know folks in the APIC community, as well as the Hispanic Business Professional Association. We've done very many events together, and I've tried my best to be a productive and involved member of this community. Cultural humility, I try to practice it as much as I can, being a person of color, realizing that there are others and finding common ground, and at the same time, trying to incorporate what it means also to be white and living in Spokane. This is part of my makeup, and this is who I am, and I connect on the basis of whether it's food or heritage or getting to know people. That's it. Thank you.
I'm going to pass it to Mr. Bingle.
All righty. Well, thank you to the Spokane Coalition of Color for holding this forum and allowing us to introduce ourselves. I appreciate it. And so a little about me. I'm born and raised in Spokane. I went to Rogers High School. My wife and I, we own a couple businesses here in town. And now I'm running for city council because I want Spokane to be the safest and the cleanest city that it can be. So in that regard, as I was growing up in the city of Spokane, I've just always loved this city. One of my favorite things is when we were, growing up, I loved being at the parks. I loved the neighborhoods. I loved how close the community was. And it's one of my favorite places in the world. And growing up, I was part of a missionary family. We did missionary work all over the world, specifically in two countries. We did a lot in India and we did a lot in Kenya. And one of my favorite things about being able to do work like that was, going into remote villages and helping to establish, clean water sources, helping to bring medicine and, things for people that they might not have had in their village, helping to secure food, and still to this day supporting, small business owners, helping to train women in these third world countries how to be business owners so that they can sustain themselves and their families. Our family has been very involved in Kenya, helping to send young girls to school out of the bush so that they, wouldn't find themselves as a part of some pretty physically brutal practices. And so for me, one of the best things about that was getting to see other areas of the world, seeing how other people got to live, how they chose to live. And when you would go in there, and you would listen, it really opened up your eyes to a whole new world that is in Spokane. But I'm thankful that I'm in Spokane. I'm glad that I have an opportunity to be in leadership here, and I hope to bring some of those lessons with me to the Spokane City Council.
Thank you. And then we'll pass it to Mr. Lish.
Good morning. Thank you for having us this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you today. My name is Mike Lish. I've lived in Spokane most of my life. My wife and I live in the Shadle district, sorry. We're raising our 5-year-old and our 7-year-old here. We love Spokane, and we can't think of any other place that we would want to be. Over the last 20 years, I've worked for the family business, and in doing so, I have got to meet so many different people from so many different cultures that have come to work for me. And it has been so much fun to listen to all of the great things that they were able to accomplish. Refugees out of Myanmar, work visas from the Philippines, and I enjoy it. And we have such a great time talking about our cultures and learning the differences and just how things work. So when it comes down to it, I love people. I love my city, and I want nothing more than to see us become successful, giving opportunities to everybody, letting everybody that chooses to do more. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, all of you. So now we are going to transition into having you all respond to 4 predetermined questions. Each candidate has 1 minute to answer each one. As a reminder, Nicole is our timekeeper. I also may ask some follow-up questions if there's time, but responses are limited to 1 minute per candidate. So the first question is, if you are elected to the City Council, how will you use funds from the American Rescue Plan to address the inequitable impact of COVID-19 on Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities? In order of responses, we're going to start with Mr. Bingle, move on to Ms. Shirazi, and then end with Mr. Lish.
Yes, well, that is a really big question right now. How are we going to be using the American Rescue Plan dollars? We've the county and the city have received over $80 million, and it really does have a few main areas that we should be focusing on. So we know that our eviction moratorium is ending. We need to make sure that first and foremost that tenants and landlords are receiving the money that has been given to the city for those specific purposes to ensure that tenants aren't losing their housing, and we need to make sure that landlords aren't falling behind on their own issues. The second thing is we need to make sure that businesses that were impacted most, like restaurants, are receiving their funds to make sure that they are not going to go under. And lastly, since it is a one-time use, we need to make sure that those dollars are used for one-time use issues. That way we're not creating further burden on the taxpayer, and tax dollars, as we know, or tax burden inevitably ends up being passed on to the poor.
Oh, you're muted, Nagmana.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize it was still muted. Okay, thank you. This is part one of the money that is supposed to come to us. And yes, the absolute urgent business is make sure everybody stays housed, that people who are struggling because of the impacts of COVID-19 are taken care of. Once we've taken care of the health and human aspects of the issues that are facing us, we need to concentrate definitely on where it's most needed. And coming to how it's going to be used for Black folks and communities of color, I think it's a very important way of making sure that we are not involved in. So the red means the minute is up. Okay, 30 seconds. And so our communities of color are taken care of in such a way that we are going forward, not forgetting something that we need to be taking care of right now. Whoever is struggling, this is one of my priorities, making sure we get rent and utility assistance to them, and definitely communities of color are a big part of it. The area in the northeast of Spokane has always been the hardest hit. We need to take care of that.
My turn? Okay. So when it comes to the ARP money, I think we need to make sure that we have I won't pretend to know all the impacts that it's going to have, on different communities here in Spokane. I would like to make sure that we take that, we pull a coalition of people together, that we have public input to make sure that we're not missing any communities that would be missed by this money. I also think it's important that we do spend it on one-time things that we could use to better our community, and just make sure that it's an open process.
Awesome, thank you all. So we're going to move on to question number 2. We're going to wait and yeah, perfect. So to address the lack of affordable housing, City Council passed Ordinance 1590 to raise funds through a sales tax to build more housing. If elected, how will you ensure that Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities can access these housing projects? And we're also going to throw the question in the chat when the slide goes away. And for the order of responses, we're going to start with Mr. Lish, move on to Mr. Bingle, and then end with Ms. Shirazi.
Housing is a very big subject right now. I'm getting it at the doors all the time. I would prefer to see a way that we could open our housing markets, more people could own. So more people could have the freedom of owning a home and gaining that upward mobility. I think it's important that we look at how we're doing our zoning and the housing choices that we have. And if we have a bigger housing market, then that gives more opportunity for people to be in homes.
And on to Mr. Bingle.
Yes. So for me, one of my priorities when it comes to housing is we do know that we're tens of thousands of units short when it comes to housing in the city of Spokane. And my big priority is helping people to transition from being a renter into home ownership. So right now in the city of Spokane, we have a white home ownership rate of 65%. The Black home ownership rate in our city is only 24%. And when we're talking about in communities here in Spokane, I want to make sure that people are building generational wealth. And I think that begins with home ownership. So 80% of businesses are funded through home equity lines of credit. If we want to see a real change, and 50% of renters are ready to transition from renting into home ownership, the supply just doesn't exist. Home ownership is significantly safer communities. It leads to significantly more stable families. Children aren't moving from school district to school district. In my estimation, home ownership is the best way that we can help all communities here in the city of Spokane.
So the first thing that we would need to do once we have the funds is, of course, to build and to make sure that people who have historically not been able to get into lower income brackets and people like me who cannot afford mortgages and don't get the kind of APR necessary to that we can afford, we have to look for income sources that will allow us, folks like us, to be able to access those loans and mortgages so that we can actually get into those units. Units will definitely need to be thought of beforehand. How many are we going to need to be able to get people housed? In what kind of incentives the city can provide? What can we do basically to help people get into these homes so that they are affordable and that they remain affordable so that people can stay housed and stay stable? And these are the things that I would definitely look into, and I would make sure that we have these conversations beforehand and that we have the resources available for folks like me. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. We're going to have a follow-up question to this one. So Black, Indigenous, and people of color are more likely to be renters. And I don't know about all of you, but I was very shocked to see that we were ranked second nationally for the largest rent increases. Since March 2020 and the start of the pandemic, Spokane rent prices have increased by 32%. So how will you make sure they are not displaced because of increasing rents and low vacancy rates? And we can do with the same order. So start with Mr. Bingal, Mr. Lish, and then Ms. Shirazi.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that we need to do is we need to understand why rents are rising. Okay, so as we've seen over the last few years, the cost of a house that once was $200,000 is now well over $400,000. And the trouble is that, you know, taxes, property rates, water rates, all kinds of things are tied to the value of your property. And so as we've seen a drastic increase in property value, what we've seen is we've seen a drastic increase in taxes and other costs for whoever owns the home. Unfortunately, what happens is when you have a drastic increase in taxes and costs for the owner, those are oftentimes passed on, not because, you know, the people are greedy and they want that, they just, their costs have increased. And so for them to continue to provide housing, they also have to increase their rent, which is tragic because I do hear at the doors $500, $600 a month, which is a lot of money. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we have the housing supply available, and we need to make sure that our tax rates are understandably adjusted based on the increase, you know, the massive explosion in property values that we've seen.
Then on to Mr. Lish.
Yes, it's a lot of a supply issue. And if we can get creative on how we zone, how we build new neighborhoods, not necessarily neighborhoods, but new, there's so many possibilities. Any house built really is going to help someone move up. And even if they're small houses, even if they're large houses, what we need to do is make sure that we can find the places and the creative ways to create more housing that will help relieve those vacancy rates. I don't know how we can do it without having more housing. So we need to find a way that we can do it quickly, public and private.
So the first thing to do is to make sure that people stay housed, they don't get evicted. We need to extend the eviction moratorium, but in such a way that the money goes in the landlord's pocket so that they can pay their bills and they can continue to get the money that they need to pay their mortgage, etc. If we can do that, that's a basic start. And yes, I am one of those folks who's suffering from a huge rent increase, and I have no idea where that money is going to come from. So I'm hoping the ARP dollars are going to be able to bail us out in a little bit, and we will be able to see, I will be able to get some assistance towards getting that shortfall taken care of. What that's going to look like, or when it's going to happen, or when it's going to be available to us, I have no idea, because I know the city's working on it, but it's definitely going to take a little bit of time. So we have to make sure that people who need it get the help that they want or they need in time. And we aren't just sitting on these ARP dollars by the city or the mayor or whomever. We need, people are struggling and need that money right now. And so if we are going to be displaced because of increasing rents, so we need it right now.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to question number 3. We'll wait for this slide to pop up. Perfect. So Spokane County has one of the highest rates of domestic violence in the state, though we know that it is likely that the count does not accurately reflect incidents in communities of color. One of the major barriers to reporting is language, and another is legal status in the country. If elected, how will you ensure that the police department and other services under the city are able to serve members of our community for whom English is not their first language, to help them to live safe and healthy lives? And we're going to start again with Mr. Bingle because we know he has to leave early, and then Ms. Shirazi, and then Mr. Lish.
Yes, well, first off, thank you again. I'm so sorry that I have to leave. As I said in the email, I had an event previously scheduled, but thank you again for letting me be here. I think the best thing that we can do right now, Washington State is 50th out of 50 when it comes to police per capita. Right now, the city of Spokane is over 100 officers below where it should be for a city our size. And the real unfortunate thing about that is that we don't have the police presence to be able to do what they need to do in the community. As we continue to fund our police department, which should be fully funded and resourced, what we need to do is we need to make sure that as we are hiring, that we are looking at the needs of the community. For example, people where English is not their first language, to where we can better serve the entire community. And in one of my police ride-alongs, I went alongside with a woman who spoke Spanish. And there was an incident we ran into where she was able to speak and help in a situation that somebody who didn't speak Spanish wouldn't have been able to help in the same way. So I think that we do need to understand the needs of the community and hire our police officers to be reflective of our community. Thank you again so much for letting me be here. If anybody has any questions, they can give me a call, they can send me an email, and I'd love to answer them for you.
Thank you. On to Ms. Shirazi.
So one of the good things that recently happened is that, by Jonathan, the Spokane Human Rights Task Force has launched a tool where bias incidents can be reported. And I know that there are efforts being made to make sure that the tool is translated so that folks can access it in different languages. We need to do something similar for the police force as well. Of course, it is imperative that we send out officers who are either trained or, when we send out mental health professionals or appropriate to calls, now that the city is taking that into consideration, people who are trained for these different scenarios. And yes, it's imperative that we carry along either people who speak different languages, or there is access to someone who can translate on their behalf at the time.
Yes, domestic violence in our community is terrible. I went on a ride along a couple months ago, and just looking at the call list was domestic violence, domestic violence, domestic violence, domestic violence. And all the officers were out that evening were all on those cases, and everything else, they were the higher priority. Everything else was just being left. Now, I think we live in an age where we have electronic tools for being able to translate. If we cannot find the officers that speak the language for the community, we have a translator on our cell phone. And I don't know, but it seems like that would be an easier tool to start with, and maybe in hopes to bridge those gaps.
Thank you both. So we are going to move on to question number 4. Perfect. So this summer was marked by heat and smoke that lasted for weeks. Those most impacted are our low-income residents and people of color who are more likely to live in housing with no air conditioning. The city recently completed a sustainability action plan to begin to address the effects of climate change to our environment. What actions will you take to ensure that Black, Indigenous, and people of color have a voice in the implementation of the sustainability action plan? And we're going to put that question in the chat for you all. And we'll start with Mr. Lish and then Ms. Shirazi.
Okay. So a lot of this does come back to housing and being affordable and people being able to afford housing where they wouldn't have to, where they could afford to have AC. We need to make sure that we're keeping those costs down so people can be there. I think this goes back to, we need to make sure that on these panels, we have these voices to make sure that it is helping everybody that it is supposed to be helping.
So the city launched the Sustainability Action Plan, and I'm part of the committee where we are all looking at getting feedback from every different community. And it's actually on the website. If anybody can go there and fill out a survey of any kind, it needs to be translated in different languages so that other people can have access to it as well. And it's one of the suggestions I'm making. In fact, my suggestion is to make, whenever we send out any kind of communication, it needs to be accessible by different folks of different languages, so that we just never run into that issue of, oh, I didn't know, and this came up, and I didn't access it because it was not available in my language. So that's the first thing we need to do. To begin to address climate change and how it impacts Black, Indigenous, and people of color, making sure that we have a voice is that we also have to make a concerted effort to get groups like us involved more in whatever decisions are being taken at the council level, or whatever there are committees. We also have to step up and be part of these initiatives.
Thank you both. So now we are transitioning into the questions from the audience. So our first one from the audience is, after the murder of George Floyd, there has been national outcry for police accountability and the limitation of the use of force. There's a call for police accountability here locally as well. However, we have not seen much progress in Spokane. If elected, what would you do to strengthen measures to ensure police accountability and to limit police use of force? And we can start with Ms. Shirazi and then to Mr. Lish.
So we had regulation, 11 elements to that regulation were passed and in the bill, and yet it hasn't been implemented by our sheriff or by our mayor for that matter. And we need to make sure and pressurize them to make sure that these factors are implemented and they are taken seriously, because we are lagging behind other parts of the city, the state, where we haven't implemented them. And the accountability part is a huge piece for me, because we've been working on an Office of Civil Rights for 2 years with the local groups and local input, and it still has to become a reality. And we have to make progress forward, and first thing we need to see is the implementation of those 11 elements.
Okay, for police accountability, we should hold anybody that's hurting our community accountable for their actions. And I think that's pretty simple. I'm not sure at this point in time what I would do to strengthen those measures to ensure the police accountability. I do know that we have some stuff in place already, and I don't know if it's a matter of going back through and making sure that all of those policies are working, and if we don't need to pivot or change something at that level.
Thank you. So our second question from the audience is, can each candidate discuss what you see as the biggest challenges facing the cohort of refugees arriving in our city? And how do we ensure they are receiving quality and safe housing? And we can start with Mr. Lish and then have Ms. Razi go after that. And I can drop the question in the chat as well.
I would I would imagine that the one of the biggest challenges would be being somewhere they've never been before, and then finding housing and services. I'm not sure. This question caught me off guard. I won't deny that. And I have not given it much thought to refugees. I don't know. This would be something that I would need help with. This is something that I would outreach and ask the community, what is it? What am I missing? And how can you help me make sure that they are being taken care of?
Here's your chance, Mike, because I did a little bit of conversation. I've had a few conversations, and if I may take a little bit over a minute, please bear with me, because this is something we can create this awareness while we have all these folks here on the panel. So these are human parolees. They're being granted humanitarian parole. They are not refugees. These are war veterans from our war in Afghanistan for the last 20 years. They have been interpreters and guides and helped us. And so when they're coming here, they're not getting humanity. They are not refugees, which means World Relief is not bringing them in, giving them door-to-door service. World Relief is not providing them, when they come here, for 5 years of housing and Medicaid and all kinds of jobs, whatever. There's nothing ready for them. They get 90 days of rental assistance right now, and that's it. Now, a lot of them are arriving with 24 hours of notice. 300 souls are supposed to be coming to Spokane, and basically they are arriving here with nothing except the clothes on their back. Winter's here. They need safe housing. I mean, look at us, 0.5% vacancy rate. So the community is scrambling. World Relief is scrambling. Everyone is trying to find locations, whether we can find apartments or, there's some local families who've offered, like they said, we can house X number of people maybe for a week or a month. So that's not stable enough. So there is a lot going on at the local level within the community, as well as from World Relief. But the maximum that we can buy legally that is allowed them is 90 days of rental assistance, and that's it. For somebody, as you said, to come here for the first time from a place where they might not even have TV in their home, and they've been helping us for the last 20 years. That's the reason why they're fleeing. It's really, really, really important and urgent to understand that these are folks who are being targeted because of this association with the United States Army and the help that they gave us. So we have to continue to help them and find other avenues, and the whole community has to come together, every one of us.
Thank you both. So we are going to move on to another audience question. One moment. Oh. Rowena, I'm gonna break the wall. Thank you. The racial disparity in housing means BIPOC households are renters, as we have already heard. What do you plan to do to provide housing security and stability to renters? So this is a kind of like a follow-up to the housing question that we had earlier. And we can start with Mr. Lish and have Ms. Razi go after that.
And what was the follow-up question again? Oh, there it is. Okay. That goes back to having more housing options in Spokane. If we have more housing options, then we have more chances for people to buy a second home, to rent out, to help give that security and stability. I'd like to see us create different zonings in our neighborhoods, so people can stay in the same neighborhood if they're moving up or down, if they're going from a rental to a home to a rental, or if they're getting to that retirement age. To we need to have all those housing options in our community or in our neighborhoods, so people don't have to move around so much. And I think that would help give more stability to our kids and just to the people that live there. We need to get creative on how we do it, and we need to find affordable, reasonable ways to create this housing.
So there are different things here at play when it comes down to BIPOC people as renters. And we, first of all, need to remove barriers to access for mortgages, get certain demographics. We need to work with the banks and find better rates of interest for loans and that kind of thing, so that people can actually afford them, because there is a big there is a big difference in having that wealth available. And yes, we do need to upzone and rezone around, say, for instance, I'm going to talk about District 1 and the Northtown Mall. It's all surrounded by single family housing, and grandma's been living in that house, can't afford it anymore. Maybe it's time to rezone and upzone and allow grandkids to go stay with us, so that they all have spending power, so that they can take that money and actually go and spend it at the mall, so the mall isn't dying either. So having security and stability to renters, I mean, we need to keep people housed. That's the main goal. The only way we can do that is we can use the ARP dollars, or we can create stability on the local level with low income loans.
Thank you both. So our next question from the audience is, given this week's legal reinforcement of the injunction against the Church of Planned Parenthood, also known as TCAP, how will you legislate on the council to combat the growing threat from white nationalists and Christian dominionists to make sure Spokane doesn't become the next battleground like Portland and Olympia, while maintaining everyone's right to freedom of expression? So I'm going to drop this in the chat for you both. And Ms. Shirazi can start and Mr. Lish can follow.
So this is actually something that has affected me as I was going to and from work for more than a couple of years, almost a year and a half, 2 years. And very, very distressing watching people standing there and doing what they're doing. Yes, we have a right to freedom, but then of expression, but then the people who are actually going to Planned Parenthood trying to gain access to health care also have the right to express their choice. And so it has to be live and let live, and you do not have the right to be standing there and protesting the way that you did to bar and access to everybody who needs to get in and out. To prevent dominionism and for us to not become the next battleground, I think it's really important to make sure that our rights are heard of, and that we get that ability to have our say, and our police force needs to be, whatever injunctions there are in place and whatever legislation has been placed, it's our mayor's responsibility and the city council's responsibility to make sure that those are maintained.
At a local level, I think that's one of the basic things the local government should do is make sure that our rights are protected, that we do have our freedoms of expression, our freedoms of speech, and being able to have public discourse. At the same time, it's also responsible for our safety. It's responsible for making sure that we have a safe environment to raise our families. So that I don't like extremism, and I'm kind of a live and let live guy. So situations like this become complicated in that at what point do we stop someone's expression, and at what point does it offend us, or is it detrimental to us? It's something that it needs more time to think. I need more time to think about it. So that's what I have.
Thank you both. So now we're actually going to move on to closing statements. So each candidate has 2 minutes to make closing statements, and the order will go in is first Mr. Lish and then Ms. Shirazi. And you can start whenever you're ready.
Thank you again today. Thank you again for having me on today and giving me this opportunity to speak with all of you. I know I have lots to learn about a lot of different things still. I'm pretty new to this whole city council thing. I'm doing what I can to make sure that I can represent everybody. And my goals are to have a safe community that I can raise my family, that we can promote people opening their own businesses and having economic opportunity to do what they want to do, to be who they want to be. I love Spokane. That's all there is to it. It is home. It is where it's where we choose to live. It's where we choose to raise our family. And that's it. We have a beautiful city, and I just want to make it the best city on the West Coast. So thank you again for your time today.
So yes, being part of Spokane Coalition of Color is kind of a different animal altogether when you're on the other side in the hot seat, so to speak. But suffice to say, I have been a part of Spokane and the communities of color and minority and impacted communities for such a long time that it's difficult to articulate one thing at a time. All I can hope for is to bring all these voices with me to Spokane City Council and be the advocate that our city needs, let alone District 1 needs. I want to be able to make sure that all folks of color, all impacted communities, Indigenous folks, everyone it does have a voice through us at the Spokane City Council level. We need to diversify. We need to make sure that different voices who are not heard at the moment are definitely heard. Right now, everyone on Spokane City Council is a homeowner, for instance. Nothing wrong with that. I'd love to be one, but I just don't have the resources, so I am a renter. So having voices like mine of a renter, of a Muslim, of an immigrant, of South Asian person, and who can identify with other folks of color, is really, really important, making sure that I get in that seat. The advantage of having diversity on the council, we've already seen that, when there are people who bring in different perspectives, they look at decisions from different angles and we come to better solutions. And that's what we need at the Spokane City Council level. It's important that we have the budget, the way that we allocate money to our different initiatives, how we govern within the city, how we approach issues as they come up. These are all really important. I am if you want to find out more about me, my website is peoplefornagmana.com. And, I need a lot of help with the doorbelling. And if you have the time, contact me, email me, through my Facebook page or my website. Thank you so much for the chance to come here and speak to everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you both. So we're going to pop up the slides again and do some info on voting. Cool. So ballots will be mailed in mid-October. So keep an eye out on your mailboxes. And if you haven't registered to vote yet, that's totally okay. You have time. In Washington State, you are able to register online or by mail by October 25th. But you can register in person up until 8 p.m. on Election Day, which is Tuesday, November 2nd. And if you need a fun day to celebrate voting, this Tuesday, the 28th, is National Voter Registration Day. So tell your friends, post on social media, talk to your family if they're not registered to vote, and celebrate together. And then on this slide as well is showing you where different ballot drop box locations are. And there's a link there if you want to see them all listed out, because it's hard to see with the little pins, but they're all over and often at libraries as well. So that's a great way to drop them off if you don't want to mail them. Perfect. So on behalf of the Spokane Coalition of Color, I want to thank the candidates who joined us this morning, as well as the many volunteers for making this possible. The Spokane Coalition of Color has 2 more virtual candidate forums. If you'd like to attend them, Francis is going to drop the registration link in the chat. So we have October 2nd from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. for school board and municipal court judge position number 3. And then October 9th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., Spokane Valley City Council. So these will be really great opportunities for you to get to know the candidates a little bit more, ask them questions that you have, and you can invite friends, family, coworkers, whoever you want, just to get more knowledge about these candidates who are running. Thank you all for in the audience for taking the time to engage in our democratic process by making an effort to be more informed citizens. We really appreciate it. So this actually concludes our candidate forum. So thank you again for joining us, and don't forget to vote.